It's not what you say, but how you say it. How many times have we all heard that? In fact, that's why we've got into trouble from our parents sometimes when we were younger, or how we reprimand our own children. I remember my mother saying to me the one time, "Stop being rude." And I said in my mind, "But I didn't use the F word." And my mother said to me, "It's not what you said, it is how you said it." And this is one of the key things that we need to understand when it comes to communication. Good morning, everybody. I am Jason, and I want to share some tips with you on how you can just tweak the way that you communicate, especially if you're standing up to do a presentation. Now, some of you might think, "Ooh, a presentation. I don't really do those. I don't like those." The fact of the matter is, the minute you're talking to somebody who you're not at an intimate level, and when I say intimate level, it's not meaning you're lying naked in bed next to them, just having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, the minute it's more than that, it is a form of a presentation. The saying, "First impressions lost," is so true. But it doesn't have to happen on a face-to-face basis either. It could be on a phone call. So tip number one, when you're talking on the phone, before we even talk about presentations, try this and do it with somebody who you know well. Smile while talking, and they'll ask you, "Everything okay? You're sounding different." Because believe it or not, we can hear a smile to telling you that the second thing that people will always remember most about you is not always what you've said, but rather how you made them feel when you were talking to them. What we need to do when we are communicating with people and when we are doing presentations is we need to learn how to connect with people. Psychology has shown that on average, we never will remember more than 3 points from a whole presentation. Whether it is a whole day workshop or a 1-hour workshop or a half-day workshop. 3 points on average is what we will remember. People who run workshops know this. That's why they give you notes, because that is your anchor for remembering the other things. But if we can only remember 3 things, how do we get the people to remember what those 3 things are? And when we look at the structure of how a presentation works, we've got to realize that a presentation is divided into 3 different areas: the opening, the body, and the closing. So when you start putting a presentation together, your opening must either be introducing the subject that you're going to be talking about, or something that creates a level of intrigue, that the person, not physically, but mentally, is going like this. "Ooh, I want to hear more." Because that's when you're grabbing people's attention. That's why, how many times have you been to a talk where the first thing you hear is, "Hi, it's so nice to be here today. I'm really happy to be with all of you." I specifically didn't do that because everybody does it. I specifically didn't do it because it's got nothing to do with the message I want to get across. So grab them as quickly as you can. And that's the way that people go, "Ooh, let me hear more. Ooh, this sounds like something I may be interested in." And then you got your body. And the body is where the information all actually lies. The body is where you're going to get those points across. But when you're getting those points across, you need to keep it simple. Not because you're looking down on your audience, not because you're thinking, "I've got to keep it simple because of the type of audience." But if it is technical, there's got to be handouts, so people are not distracted by having to write notes. But at the same time, if you're doing a presentation and there are handouts, My suggestion to everybody is you don't hand handouts out until after. You see, what a lot of people will do is sit like this, and they're not listening to you talking over there because they're busy reading what's going on over here instead. So what do? You give them a blank piece of paper and you say, if you want to take notes, you can. However, when I'm done, everything that I've shared with you will be in handouts that you will get at the end. In the body, because of that, and because it's a short talk, you keep it to 3 points maximum, or 4, believing that the people will only remember 3 of them. And you monitor your audience. You want to connect with everybody. Now, this is a small audience, so it's easy enough for me to be able to give eye contact everywhere. But let's assume it's a large audience. And when I say large audience, we don't have to talk about thousands. We can just talk about a small audience of, say, 70, 80, or 100 people. How do you connect with them? You create blocks, and you just look into that block. And when you look into that block, the people there in that block will feel as if you're speaking directly to them. And then we come to the conclusion. And your conclusion is all about bringing it all together. Your conclusion is all about taking everything and coming to a conclusion. One of the things that is my pet peeve, and hopefully becomes all of your pet peeves, is when you're listening to a talk and the person who is speaking goes like this. And in conclusion, and then carries on for another 5 minutes. Never announced you are going into conclusion and not conclude. But what a lot of people also do when they do the in conclusion is they start adding new information. Whereas in conclusion should be just a very short synopsis of what was in the body. Or it can be what we call pulling a thread. And I'll explain pulling a thread in a moment to all of you. But what we must not do is go in conclusion and then bring new information in. What we must not do is go in conclusion and then spend another 20% of whatever our time was concluding. And that is one of the big faults that many, many people make. Be aware of it. On the subject of being aware of things, it is important that we realize that each and every one of us have certain habits which we call, when we're speaking, crutches. Crutches, not a walking stick, crutches. A crutch is when we are using a filler word or a filler action. Most common ones, like, with the ones you're pulling up here, I'm assuming are your own ones. So what did you say? I mean, all of those. And there are many different ones. Some people use ones that are completely outside the box, and that's okay. Here is the key. Become aware of using them, because when you create that awareness, you can start eliminating it. Believe it or not, on an unconscious level or on a subconscious level, when people are talking, and it doesn't matter how important information is, and they do things like, well, then you must just, you know what I mean? Automatically when that happens, what does the audience think? They either think that person is unprepared, or they think that person isn't even sure themselves. Why the hell should I be listening to them? They're standing in the front, they're supposed to be the one that knows. So you are creating, by doing that, a level of dissatisfaction, and where you're going to be judged negatively by your audience. Doesn't matter how powerful your message is. Remember, it's not always what you say, but how you say it. So important to keep in mind. When we look at the opening, the body, and the conclusion, There are two different ways to do it. The one, which I've mentioned already, and I'm going to just tell it to you again. Grab their attention, give your information, bring it to a conclusion. The other model that works very well is tell them what you're going to tell them as your opening, tell them as your body, and remind them of what you told them as your closing. Anybody can speak. Speaking is easy. Anybody can do it. Agoraphobia is one of the biggest fears in the world, the fear of public speaking. Did you know that studies have shown that more people are afraid of public speaking than of dying? And isn't it weird that the average person would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy? We can all speak, but speaking doesn't help when you're doing a presentation. You've got to build on your other skills, and that's where we are. So I said to you a thread. My name is Jason Sandler, and what I would love to do is to connect with each and every one of you to help you structure, practice, and perfect the next presentation that you